it's very interesting that, there were how many people, according to Bible scholars? 15 million people were in the whole province of Asia, both Jews and Greeks. And what happened? All of them heard about Jesus in only a matter of 2 years. How can 15 millionaires hear about Jesus? Definitely, this was not just the Apostle Paul. But Acts 19 has the mention of the school of Tyrannus, where I really believe that believers were trained and equipped to be multipliers. So every believer should be doing the ministry or as a royal priest, right? Every believer is a royal priest, every believer is a minister. Therefore, every disciple, every believer should be making disciples, and disciple making disciples. Every believer is, who are leaders, are reproducing leaders, and you're seeing churches planted, reproducing churches.
Yes.
And then 14, 15 generations, no? So, we want to see that as you go to the mission field, that you will really impact lives.
Yeah.
You just don't want to see 100 people come to Christ through ministry. You want to see a lot, not just 100 people, but maybe 100 churches. And it can happen if we start it right. The biblical way, using biblical principle. Because in the New Testament, we have seen that happen. The whole Roman Empire, the Christians' influence. And here we see in the New Testament how the church have grown, how this happened in the province of Asia. But it's all because God's people have been involved. So prison of all believers, every believer is a minister. That's very important. But let me talk about disciple-making movement. Earlier it mentioned about church planting movement, where churches are planting churches. Disciple-making movement is basically disciples making disciples. Now, if you look at the scriptures, you can never see the commander to go and plant churches. I have not found one yet. I'm trying to look up my Bible, but what I found is go and make disciples. Go and share the gospel. In other words, all our evangelism, all our disciple making should lead to church plants. If our evangelism in making disciples will not lead to church plants, or at least lead up to our church growing, something is wrong. Because if you are part of the church, then your church should grow as you evangelize and you make disciples. Or if you evangelize and make disciples, if they will not be part of the mother church, then you can start another church. So again, it will result in church growth or churches planted. All evangelism and discipleship. That should be our goal. Because oftentimes we just evangelize and we make disciples, and we never intend to bring them to our church, or we never intend to start a church among them. So it should always lead to that. Okay? So once we do that, then you'll be amazed. So what is disciple-making movement? It is when God uses ordinary people to start a kingdom movement among a people, city, or region. Simple biblical strategies. Every disciple is making disciples. Every church is planting churches. Every leader is reproducing leaders. And I would like to add, it reaches a movement when it is consistently happening for generations. 4G. When our signal with the internet or cell phone is 4G, we are so happy. 3G, a bit disappointed, very slow, no? In Korea, when we were there last time, it's 5G.
Oh, yeah.
Is that real 5G? That's what they said. But it's really fast. We were taking pictures, and just in the tourist bus we were, you don't need to go down. Just in the bus, you will be surprised. You send it there. We were moving. Here, when you move with the bus, no more signal. But there it's so fast. It's so fast. Once you are, when there are signals, click, send,
yes.
And then before you are even far, it's already sent. Oh, we were so happy, and so we don't waste time, sending pictures, updating. But 4G or 5G.
5G.
Yeah, they said 5G. So anyway, even 4G alone in our ministry will be very good enough. Because the problem always is this: a pastor is discipling somebody, or a disciple is discipling somebody, but oftentimes it ends there. No, but again, every disciple should be making disciples. So if I make disciples, my disciples should be making disciples if they're real disciples. And the disciples of your disciples should be making disciples. In other words, your goal always is to make sure you have 4 generations. Because they said first, second generation is difficult. More difficult to start the 3rd generation. And even more difficult to start the 4th generation. But once it hits the 4th and beyond, it's unstoppable. Because it's already the norm, it's already the practice, it's already what is being seen. So everybody sees that happening, so everybody will do the same thing. So that should be your goal. If I disciple you, I will need to make sure that you have the capacity to disciple another person. And I will make sure that your disciple will also be able to disciple somebody. And I will make sure that as I disciple you, your disciple will also be able to disciple somebody. Who will disciple somebody? 4 generations. So I look at 4 generations. If it's not happening in 4 generations, I should not stop. I need to continue to bombard you, teach you, make sure, okay? And then you do the same, 4 generations. You do the same, 4 generations, okay? Everybody will do that. Then it becomes a movement. So what that happened in India, 14, 15 generations already. But just imagine the multiplication, 80,000 home fellowships, 4 million baptized members. If you divide 4 million divided by 80,000, how many members average in one church?
Wow.
Huh? 200? 100? 4 million divided by 80,000. 50? Huh? 100? Oh, 4 million. 4. Huh? Wait. Now I'm also confused. 4 million. Wow. Okay. 4 million divided by 80,000. 50. Oh yeah, so 50. Per home fellowship. That's not a small church, huh? Yeah. 50 is not that's an average Filipino church actually.
Yes.
So that's not small. Because you may be thinking, oh, maybe only 5 people, maybe only 20 people. So it gives us 80,000 fellowships, 4 million, an average of 50. Can that happen? It happened already. It should be happening even more. Okay, so these are some reports, no? So in 20 years, a disciple-making movement among the Spirit people resulted in more than 80,000 non-fellowships and 4 million new believers. In another area, Madhya Pradesh produced 4,000 new churches in 7 years. 7 years. Of course, after Mongolia, and then Africa, just go to the middle. In 7 years, over 7,000 churches planted in the Horn of Africa. In this West African country, work among Muslim group had remained almost fruitless after 100 years. After learning about disciple-making movement methodology, they have seen over 2,000 churches planted and now an average new church each day. So today, after years of resistance to the gospel in the last 10 years, some 90,000 of Kenya's, I don't know how they pronounce it, Maasai, 600,000 have become followers of the Lord Jesus. So 90,000 of 600,000 became followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. So in China, that's what I was saying earlier, in Henan province grew from 1 to 5 million in only 8 years. Chinese Christians in another country, in another province planted 236 churches in just 1 month. In southern China, a disciple-making movement produced more than 1 million baptized believers in 100,000 house churches in 12 years. So these are more smaller churches. But just imagine in just 12 weeks. So it's happening in India among the Hindus, it's happening among the Buddhists and the atheists. God is really at work. I had the opportunity to meet the guy who is helping in the disciple-making movement in the Middle East. And he was telling me in Jordan, there was one taxi driver that was used by the Lord, that in just a matter of 18 months, 8,000 Jordanian Muslims were baptized. Just a taxi driver. You know, this team, there was a team who went to Jordan. They said, God, we want to see a disciple-making movement happen, but we'll be there for only 7 days. So they went. They were praying, asking God for personal peace, for the right people to contact. On the 6th day, nobody yet. So on the 7th day, they said, God, this is our last day. Please. So when they took a taxi, they realized it was a taxi driver. Wow. He wants to know a lot about Christ. And so he told the driver, the team, can you teach me? And the team said, the problem is, we're leaving tomorrow. Now is the last day. And the taxi driver said, if that's the case, I will not try my taxi today. Just teach me everything you can teach me. 1 day training. In 18 months, 8,000 were baptized. Very simple. You know, he came to know the Lord, and then he was, just those 4 questions in the video. What is the story telling us about God? What is the story telling us about people? What do we ought to do? And who am I going to share or tell what I have learned? Only those 4 questions. So he learned that, and he will lead, if he talks to somebody and a bit interested to learn about the Bible, so he will say, let's read Genesis 1, the creation. And then they'll say, what does the story tell us about God? What does the story tell us? You know, and then you'll go. We'll go to that this afternoon. But basically, those questions, those passages of scriptures we will study this afternoon is what they use. So what happened in a matter of 18 months? Amazing. In Iran, same thing is happening. Over 2 million Muslim background believers, meaning Muslims in beliefs and practices, but now are believers of the Lord, followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. In Indonesia, I also had the opportunity to meet one of the prime movers of the disciple-making movement, and he was telling me, if the present trend in Indonesia of Muslims becoming followers of Christ will continue, he said in 30 years, the whole of Indonesia will become believers or Christ followers. God is doing amazing things in the world today. But we have to go back to biblical principles.